Good morning. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. You know, most special operations units in the world have a selection course. And those courses are generally pretty similar. And they put people under great amounts of stress. And then they see who quits, right? And then they move forward with who's left. That's oversimplifying it, but there's a good thing there. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the future of a Viking Preparedness channel, YouTube and otherwise. And we're going to answer some of the questions that y'all post, because my goodness, did I see some questions. I am also going to ask you to look deep within yourself. Look into the mirror, as it were. Because how you acted in the last 24 hours is an indicator of how you will act in a TEOTWAWKI situation. All right, stick around. Here's your book review. Your book recommendation. Class. A Guide Through the American Class System. It's a really good book. All right. First off the bat, I told you all, if you go back and watch that video and listen to it, boy, as much as I tell people not to emote and to use their brain and their logic and not their emotions, a good chunk of you haven't learned that lesson yet. If you go back and actually listen to what I said, I'm still going to be here on YouTube until I move somewhere else like VidMe or something like that. So for those of you who are panicking, don't worry about it. You'll be okay. And I've got a VidMe account. I uploaded one video to it just as a test, and we'll see where that goes. I don't know yet, and I'm fixing to not have a lot of time for the next 2 weeks, so where that goes, I don't know. Some of y'all's true character came out. A lot of y'all's true character came out, and the first people I'd like to address is the cool people. My phrase. My wife and I had cable TV for years. Like everybody else, young, upwardly mobile professionals. And at one point, we just decided, this is ridiculous, man. We're spending all our time in front of a TV. Let's get rid of the cable. And then we went to the little rabbit ears. And then we actually threw the TV away for about 2 years. And then we got a new one. And then so we went through periods of time when we would unpack the TV and pack it back up and stick it in the garage or something for like months at a time. But we always had the rabbit ears. And then several years ago, some of you are too young to remember this, they went to, if you didn't buy this box, your rabbit ears, your antennas wouldn't work on your TV anymore. So no more free TV, right? And my wife and I decided, I'm not paying for a box. I don't really like TV that much anyway. So we're not going to pay for a box. And so, all our friends were like, did you get the box? We're like, yeah, no, we're not going to pay for it. They're like, come on, it's $10. What's that? We're like, yeah, principle, right? Principle of the matter. And then there were ways to get that box for free, right? There were like giveaways or something. And we never did it. And we just went away from TV. We left TV. We weren't going to pay for it. It had been free forever. We didn't really like it that much anyway. And we found that when we didn't watch TV, we got a lot more done. And so we didn't do it. To those of you, and it was probably at least half of the comments I read, who said, hey Joe, or Pastor Joe, or PJF, or whatever. Love you, man, but just not going to pay to go to Patreon, and good luck. Do y'all see what that is? That's integrity. That is kindness. That is goodwill. That is love. I love you guys back. That's just people saying, hey, dude, it's just me, right? But I'm not going to pay for YouTube. In any form, videos on the internet. It's just me, nothing personal, Joe. And I wish you luck, though. I wish you luck with that, man. That's cool. That's classy, right? It's kind of like saying, not my thing, that's your thing, but hey, man, whatever floats your boat, cool. I do wish you the best with it. That's how you should be, as far as wishing other people well when you don't get your way. Or when things don't go the way you should, or whatever. I kind of phrase that a little bit stridently. And so to those of y'all, thank you. You're cool. been having problems with YouTube. Not going to go through all those again. It just irritates me. And guess what? YouTube doesn't like people like you either, believe it or not. And there were many people who commented or emailed me or sent me YouTube messages and said, hey, Pastor Joe, we're willing to support you. How can we do that? Those people are cool, right? And so I looked around, and a couple people suggested that I check out Patreon, which allows people to make pledges and then give you money to continue doing what you're doing. We're going to address money at the end of this, and pastors. Y'all stick around for that. And so I looked into that, and guess what? Those people put their money where their mouth is, and they are going to Patreon, and they are giving me, chump change, right? $1 to $10 a month to produce video content. They're willing to support me in what I do, willing to help a brother out, right? Cool. Thank you very much. They already know it because they're already getting stuff on Patreon. What are they getting? And what can you get if you go there? And this is, don't worry, this isn't a sales thing because I know half of you are ticked off, right? So, but hey, you want to know what they get, right? They're going to get video content that you don't get, right? They're going to get, number one, most of my rants that YouTube just demonetizes and doesn't allow, they're just going straight to Patreon, right? But hey, they're willing to step up. They're willing to pay a whole $1 a month. Some of them are paying $10 a month. So don't you think they deserve something more than the people who are just coming down the aisle and seeing what they can get for free, right? I mean, they should get something for that, right? It's the American way. And so they're going to get some video content that you don't get. There's a certain level in there, and I think probably most of the people who signed up for that level. That's $3 whole a month. What is that? 10 cents a day? My math is horrible, and I haven't had enough coffee. But whatever, $3 a month, we're going to do a live video chat. I was thinking about trying to figure out how to do a live video chat anyway. This is a good way to do it. And so they'll be able to ask questions, we'll be able to talk back and forth, and maybe they can give me some steering guidance for the ship, and the way we're going. And so on and so forth. And then there's a level where I'm actually going to produce a newsletter once a month, and people can get that. So, hey, they're paying. That's what they're going to get for that. And you know what? They're not doing it like they're shopping. They're not like, oh yeah, I'm going to pay for this. This is cool. They're doing it like, hey, you know what? I want to support Pastor Joe. And to me, that's a level of loyalty that deserves something back from me, right? That motivates me just to see that. And so there's that. I got a lot of comments. No, we're going to start getting a little negative. You cool people, thank you. I love you. I get it. Right? It's a principle thing. It's just like, hey, dude, I'm just not going to pay. Nothing personal. Just not going to do it. I get you guys. You're cool. That's fine. All right. But there were people who commented on this thing. I even said something back to one lady who have never commented on any video before, ever. They've never contributed to what we do. And then they're all, like that, right? Like I care. Who are you again? Some of y'all, I recognize your names. I don't respond to most comments. I probably read about half the comments on the videos, but some of you comment frequently, and I recognize you. I see that name, I'm like, oh yeah, that person comments a lot. To me, you're like a valued member of this team, right? Because you're invested in it, emotionally at least, or intellectually or whatever. But there are a lot of people saying, that's it, unsubbed. Bye. You don't hurt me by unsubbing. I don't care. My wife asked me, my wife has a new channel, For God Live, the number 4, Godliv. And she's just getting started. And she tracks how many subscribers she has. And she always asks me, how many subscribers do you have? I'm like, I don't know. You're up to 50,000. You're up to 57,000. I'm like, okay. 57,000 people aren't watching my video when it comes out. I mean, that would be cool, but they're not, right? And so, somebody saying they're unsubscribing, okay, to me that's like a 3-year-old throwing a temper tantrum and running out of the room. Okay, when my kids threw temper tantrums, I say this in my book, I think I said it. I haven't read it for a while. But this is the truth. All of my children threw a temper tantrum once. That didn't work very well. Didn't quite get the result they were expecting. Sub, unsub, I don't care. Subbing just lets you get a ding when a new video comes up. Then you either want to watch the videos or you don't. Yeah, I'm not grabbing you and pulling you out and saying, you must watch this video. If I produce something that you like, you'll watch it. If you produce something that's valuable, you'll watch it. If I don't, you won't. I get it. I'm subbed to about, 20 channels on YouTube, and I whittle it down. A lot of those channels don't produce content anymore, but I still subbed in case something pops up. I'll see it. So, whatever. You don't want to sub? That's okay. Class character. We are generally conservative. Generally, I love my liberal viewers. And I actually listen to you when you're not nasty. And I have a chunk of liberal viewers on here who are polite and have class. And so I actually listen, think about what they type and say, because they actually are trying to engage in a dialogue. And, okay, but most of us are conservative, right? And we go from one end to another, and you can see that in the comments too. And there's this phrase out there that I don't use, but I've seen it on some of the websites I'm on called gimme dats. The gimme dats, gimme that, gimme that. And it's, the stereotypical is the people who don't have a job and they're sitting on the porch and they're just on government welfare and government cheese and, whatever, man. And they just, they're not going to work and they're going to be a problem in TEOTWAWKI, man, because they're expecting the government to give them everything and all of a sudden there's nothing coming and they're going to riot and go to street. There are people out there, and I talk about them, and I've talked about them less. But now I may talk about them more, that think that they belong in your group, in your survival group, in your community, in your compound, in your whatever, just because of the nature that they are who they are, and they deserve it. And you should let them in to your little enclave. There are people who want to be let in and say, and I can't do anything. That's not true. Everybody can do something. The grandma in the wheelchair with a broken hip can still tell stories to the children and keep an eye on them, right? But there are people who, I can see it now. It's like, all right, you're here, here you go, here's a ditch, here's a shovel, go dig that ditch over there. I ain't digging a ditch. I've been hanging out here for free forever. Why should I dig a ditch? Because the ditch needs to be dug. Why am I digging a ditch? Because you're just sitting there getting a free ride. Oh, that wouldn't be me. I'd tuck right in and dig that ditch. $1 a month. Pastor, you who did it on principle, get it. You're over here. I'm not talking to you. The people, those of you who said you cannot afford $1 a month, if you're not lying to me in the world, you're lying to yourself. A 7-year-old could afford $1 a month. Okay? If you're sitting around watching YouTube videos, including mine, and you can't scrape together $1 a month, you have no business sitting around watching YouTube videos. You need to go out and collect cans on the side of the road and turn them in for money because you are operating too close to the margins. Get off YouTube and go get to work. $1 a month. My God. What's 30 into $1? 3 cents a day? So, you guys aren't being honest with yourselves when you said you can't afford it. And like I said, the people who just don't want to do it on principle, I'm a man of principle. Why do you think I'm so ticked off at YouTube? I get it, right? I get it. But those others of you, you're lying to yourself. And then the logic out there, lack thereof. If I pay you $1, I watch 30 different channels. That would be $30 a month. I can't afford that. I don't think those channels are asking you for $1. So, there you go. Well, if they all did, well, they're not. What if? What if frogs had pockets? They'd carry pistols and storks wouldn't mess with them. So there's that. There are people who want to support me and think what I do is valuable. And it's not really a big deal for them to do so, but it's a big deal for me. And then the logic, lack thereof. And man, Yeshua, Jesus talks about this in the Bible. Ooh, we're going to get a little religious here. He's got 64,000 subscribers. If everybody gives him $1 a month, that's $64,000 a month. That ain't right. I'm not doing that. Words to that effect, right? Y'all saw it. What do you care? What do you care how much I make a month? The story in the Bible, for those of you who don't know it, is this workman, this owner of like a vineyard goes out and goes, hey, I need some people to help me in the vineyard. Will you come work for me for this day's wage right here? A denarius, let's say. Will you come work for me for that in the vineyard? Oh yeah, I'll do that. So they hire a bunch of guys and they all get to work. And they've agreed to pay them, this much money. Well, about 10 o'clock in the morning, they figure out, hey, we don't have enough guys out here, boss. All right, go hire some more people. So they go out and they round some people and they say, hey, will you work for the rest of the day for this much money? Same amount of money. Yeah, I'll do it. Okay, come on. And then at the end of the day, crunch time, they still don't have enough people. And so they go out and they grab some people and they say, hey, will you just come help us finish up this task? We'll give you this much money. And they're like, yeah, cool, I'll do that. And they do it. And then the people who got hired at the beginning of the day start kvetching. They start grumbling, whining, moaning. You're paying them the same as you're paying me, and I worked all day. Dude, you agreed to work all day for that. What are you complaining about? What do you care what he gets paid? Why are you worried about him? Worry about yourself. There's a much deeper aspect to that story. But the point is, what do you care if I got $4 billion a day? You know what? Honestly, if I found out you were making $3 million a day, I'd think that was pretty cool. I'd be like, yeah, go on with your bad self. It wouldn't affect me giving you $1 a month or not. It wouldn't. And that is not me trying to sell you, because I know you're not coming over. So, I'm trying to talk to you to get you to look inside your soul. Why do you care? I told a story once, my son and I, and I'll make this quick and then we'll wrap it up. Hunting story. Son and I were hunting on Quantico Marine Corps base. And the way it worked there is you would have to check in. They'd give you a little area of land to go hunt. At the end of the day, you had to come check out. So they knew you were off their reservation. And where you checked out was where everybody would bring their deer to check their deer in to get them registered and everything. And so it was cool because when you were checking out at the end of the day, you'd see all the deer that everybody shot. And, my son's there. He was like 8 or 9 or something. And, so it's cool father-son time. And there's all these deer hanging up. And there's this big buck hanging up that somebody had shot. And there's these 2 guys in front of me. And people say, why do you always use a southern accent when you make fun of people? I don't know. It's the only accent I can really do. I can't pull off a New York accent. But these guys did have a really like drawly Virginia accent. And the guy's like, man, that just makes me sick. That just makes me sick. And so I'm listening because they're right in front of us in this line. The guy's like, yeah, man, that makes me sick too. He shot that big deer. Look at the deer he shot. Man, I could have got that deer. Covetousness. They were mad that somebody else shot a nice deer. That's a dark place to be. That's a dark hole to have in your soul, man. Gotta let that go. All right, final thing, pastors and money. I saw some sideways comments on pastors and money. Number 1, Viking Preparedness is not a ministry. Oh yeah, me comes out on it, and I'm obviously a believer and a man of Yah. So that's going to come out. But it's not a ministry per se. I've been a pastor of a church for over 10 years. In that time, I have never passed a collection plate. We've accepted offerings and donations, absolutely, but never passed a plate. I want to be careful where I go here. So we haven't. But this Viking Preparedness ain't a ministry. I don't know what you guys think about working. And you know, some of y'all, you're a pastor. Don't you trust God to provide? Absolutely, I trust God to provide. Absolutely. That does not relieve me from the requirement to work. By the sweat of your brow shall you eat your bread. And I'm not going to turn this into a Bible lesson, but those of you who say that don't understand your word, which isn't surprising. But the ox is worth the corn that he treads out, right? So, yeah, this ain't that. And if people want to provide money, fine. And if people want to support what I'm doing on Viking Preparedness, do they deserve a little bit more attention? Yeah, they do. And if you don't understand that, and if you think everything should be free just because you breathe air, and you're mad at me, okay, bye-bye. I'm either putting out stuff that's good and useful to you or I'm not, you know, but that's your decision to make, not mine. To those of you who are on principle, you know, dude, I'm just not paying. I get it. Oh yeah, one more thing. Those of you who said, so you can tell I read your comments, knowledge should be free. You should freely share knowledge. Mm-hmm. Like you freely get books, right? Like authors write books and then just give them away, right? I have a whole library of books here that I paid for. Now some I paid full price for, some I paid like 10 cents a grocery bag full of books for at a library sale. But the bottom line is, you got to pay for it, right? One way or another. And again, if you don't get that, that's cool. But I think your character's coming out, and I think if you're acting like that now, I can only imagine how you're going to act in a time of emergency when all of a sudden you're expected to pull your weight. All right, I'll still see you out there.